Discover the incredible transformation. How one Christmas smirk revealed hidden family dynamics. Rachel Matthews crossed the threshold of her childhood home, the familiar scent of nutmeg and cinnamon hitting her like a wave. After a decade of bustling hospital rounds and late-night shifts, returning felt surreal, akin to stepping into a relic of her past. Yet each laugh from her relatives echoed a growing tension gnawing at her insides. Could their chatter about holiday cheer mask the resentment they held for her ambitions? As the unyielding expectations of family loomed large, the weight felt heavier than ever. Amidst the laughter, her 8-year-old son Noah tugged at her sleeve, yearning for connection. But Rachel's heart clenched at the thought of how her relentless pursuit of a nursing career didn't just create distance from home. It bred a variety of shadows over her familial ties. Was she just the black sheep, an outsider in a once warm cocoon of laughter? The worry clawed at her, generating knots of anxiety within. What if their smiles dissipated the moment she stepped outside their perfectly crafted holiday bubble? Come on, Rachel. Smile for the camera. Her sister's voice rang out, jarring her from her reverie. As the family maneuvered themselves into a haphazard arrangement, relatives feigned joy. Yet beneath the surface, the atmosphere crackled with unresolved grievances. When she smirked at a distant relative's offhand remark, an unintentional trigger, the chaos erupted into criticism and accusations. It turned out her absence over the years hadn't been just a physical void. It had woven an intricate tapestry of judgment that painted her as irresponsible. The words hurled at her selfish, ambitious but disconnected felt like daggers, each one affirming her deepest fears. How could they not see the fine line she walked, balancing her ambition with the unrelenting demands of motherhood? Did her choice to pursue a career signify her rejection of family ties? Caught in the crossfire, her pulse quickened, and she felt the room spin. Before she could drown in the rising tide of accusations, an inexplicable pull led her to a dusty box tucked away in the attic. The moment she opened it, the essence of her late grandmother flooded her senses, an artistic legacy buried under years of forgotten memories. Each painting whispering tales of resilience resonated deep within her, unveiling layers of her family's hidden emotions. Yet as she sifted through these remnants, the irony struck her. While she chased ambition, she had unwittingly distanced herself from the very foundation of her identity. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the evening wore on, Rachel's newfound revelation only deepened the dissonance within her. The holiday bustle continued around her, but within her, a tempest brewed. With creativity bubbling beneath the surface, she felt an aversion to her family's fractured perceptions. They held the keys to understanding and acceptance, yet each key was marred with years of bitterness. Could she summon the courage to speak her truth? The thought paralyzed her. She was an intruder in her own heritage, a stranger to the family she had once known. Yet within her, the desire to mend these connections surged. As the tension swelled, a confrontation edged closer, an emotional precipice yearning for release. Just as she contemplated revealing her intentions, voices began to raise around her, accusations flaring, words twisting into knives. Standing at the edge of this emotional brink, Rachel felt the eruption inevitable. Caught between the clarity of her ambitions and the chaos brewed from a decade of separation, the palpable silence after a harsh word left her breathless, a moment pregnant with anguish and anticipation, clamoring for resolution as their collective emotions swirled in the air, heavy and unresolved, a catalyst for change. The rising crescendo of accusations hung in the air, thick with unresolved tension. Rachel stood frozen, battling the instinctive urge to withdraw into herself. Each critical synonym of selfish echoed in her mind, a grim litany as she clenched her fists, feeling the ghost of her grandmother's paintings behind her, urging her to confront her fears. Noah looked up at her, his round eyes shimmering with confusion. He was too young to grasp the depths of familial rifts, yet the palpable heaviness in the room reached him. She bent down, smoothed his hair, and mustered a smile faint enough to mask her turmoil. Protecting Noah from this storm became her singular focus, as desperate as it seemed. Enough! Rachel's voice broke through the rising tide. It wasn't a scream, but the firm resonance silenced the chatter momentarily. She straightened her back, every ounce of insecurity melting away in an instant. The sight of her family, those faces that had shifted from familiar warmth to stinging judgment, only fueled her determination. Enough of this misunderstanding, she pressed on, strength creeping into her tone. You think I chose to be absent? That my career choices were made at the cost of my family? I did it for us. You don't know the sleepless nights, the sacrifices. I did it so Noah would never have to see his mother struggle the way I did. As her words flowed, the initial shock on her relatives' faces began to morph into something resembling curiosity. The tension slackened just enough for genuine emotion to seep through. They were not just listening to the words. They were hearing the intention behind them. Mom, can I play with the other kids? It was Noah's request, small against the backdrop of heated family drama, but it sparked a crucial reflection in Rachel. He needed the space of childhood, untainted by adult resentments. Yes, buddy, she replied, allowing him to slip away. Alone in this quagmire, she resolved that she would not allow any more generations of misunderstandings to define her family's legacy. The silence where Noah had stood felt deafening, yet it offered her a combatant spirit for the unfolding battle. She inhaled deeply and stepped forward, her family still caught in her earlier revelation. How could she create a dialogue that transcended resentment? I don't want to throw my career in your faces. I'm here because I love you. But I also love what I do. Can't we find a way to weave both paths together? The logic was sound, but she felt the tremor in her gut, uncertainty creeping back in, yet masked by a burgeoning sense of responsibility. Their faces shifted from shock to contemplation. For the first time, instead of accusations, they were met with a plea for understanding. Rachel felt the words rush through her like a cleansing wave, washing away years of guilt. Take a step back, her brother, David, finally broke the silence. We have all said things we regret. Maybe we can really talk. It was a humble acknowledgement of shared fault lines, a small but pivotal crack in the hardened facade of familial expectation. Rachel's heart raced as she envisioned the uncertainty ahead. Would they truly engage? Creating a new conversation demanded courage and commitment from all sides. Could her plea plant the seeds of reconciliation? As Rachel exchanged glances with each member of her family, the realization hit her. They were facing a moment of reckoning together, an undeniable chance to redefine their connections. Yet the stakes grew heavier as she contemplated the unraveling intricacies of her own passion clashing against familial affection. Change was unfolding within her, a road neither simple nor clear. The moment felt ripe for authenticity, yet uncertainty loomed. Was the effort mutual? She couldn't shake the sense that this was just the beginning. The familial winds had shifted, but would they sail toward understanding or drift back into the storm? The answer felt just beyond reach. Each moment suspended in the balance like a painter's brush hovering over a canvas, awaiting its stroke. The moment hung in the air like an unspoken invitation. Rachel could feel the weight of her family's gazes upon her, each one charged with unexpressed thoughts and emotions. She took a cautious breath, feeling the firm ground beneath her feet, ready to tread into the murky waters of her familial ties. There was potential here, an opportunity for both healing and activation, a challenge to catalyze transformation rather than revert to old patterns. Let us talk, she suggested, her voice calmer now, yet suffused with underlying urgency, an arrow aimed toward understanding. Let us really talk. The challenge floated forward, tinged with a resolve she hadn't fully appreciated until this moment. David nodded, his demographic stance as the quiet observer now transforming intriguingly to that of an active participant. All right, Rachel, he said, leaning slightly closer. What if I told you that I've seen how hard you've worked? I've never doubted your commitment. That was never the issue. Rachel's throat tightened, unsure how to respond to such a straightforward acknowledgement. Was this empathy truly emerging from her brother? Or was it a precursor to deeper conflict? Then what is the issue? she pressed, determined to unravel the undercurrents stirring within the room. That a painful pause settled as Rachel looked around, taking in familiar faces lined with unease, yet also unfolding hope. Are we all scared of what it means to redefine loyalty? Am I stepping away from you while prioritizing my path? She began to unwrap her heart, pulling back layers of fear and shame that had built over years. Their reply was not immediate. The silence coiled like a tightening spring until her sister female mother, Elaine, finally interjected. It's just we don't know how to connect anymore. You moved away and focused on your career. In our eyes, it felt like you chose that over us. Each word sliced through Rachel, not for their harshness but for their hidden truth. Yet instead of retreating, she found the courage to confront this sharing. I never chose one over the other. She hesitated slightly, grappling with her emotions, forcing grounded thought in the face of vulnerability. I thought by pursuing my aspirations, I would bring us all forward, together. I thought you'd be proud. Elaine shifted, a flicker of remorse crossing her features. Proud but abandoned. That's how it felt, she replied, a soft urgency in her tone. We didn't feel part of your success. We wanted you to call home. The conversation shifted from accusations to revelations. They moved from defensive stances to self-examination. Rachel felt raw yet emboldened, as if she was shedding old skin. Was this the courage her grandmother had embodied on the canvas? I can be here more often. I want to. Let us find a new dance rhythm where we all play our parts. Do you mean it? David asked, raising his eyebrow half-heartedly, a hesitant smile dancing on his lips. I do. The sincerity in her voice broke the brittle walls that had enclosed their dialogue. I realize I need to find a way to be both a mother and an artist. I want to teach Noah to be proud of both family and passion. The words hung in response. Each family member shifted slightly, considering her proposition. The tension had morphed from suffocating to hopeful. Yet an undercurrent of trepidation remained. Can I ask you something? David leaned forward, intensity etching deeper lines across his brow. If it's as simple as loving your career, why was it so hard for you to keep contact? Rachel's heart lurched. Was it simply her ambition that had fashioned a chasm, leaving her family in shadows rather than inviting them into the brilliance of her aspirations? I didn't know how. I thought distance would shield you from my struggles, but it seems I only built walls. The atmosphere thickened with contemplation. The road ahead lay uneven, festooned not with resignation but a palette for something new. The acknowledgement weighed heavily in her mind, pushing her to redefine her relationship with both her family and herself. But as the discussion deepened and possibilities surged, Rachel felt the distant tremors of doubt encroaching once more. Was she brave enough to face not just their perceptions, but also her unresolved fear of failure? Uncertainty seeped back into her thoughts. Would they truly embrace her newfound commitment to both art and family? Or would they cling to the past? The stakes now coursed with potential. She stood on a precipice of change, forging ahead with hesitant optimism. Yet beneath the surface of this newfound connection loomed an impending storm of unresolved emotions. The pulse of reckoning quickened, hinting that the real work transformation had merely begun. What legacy would survive this crucible of change? The next conversation might either bond them anew or tear at what she had only begun to reconstitute. Rachel felt the pulse of the future fading in, and out of focus a question of whether she could craft something beautiful out of the chaos. The weight of silence still lingered, a pulse that radiated through the room as Rachel gathered her thoughts, all eyes fixed expectantly upon her. She had opened a door, yet the air felt charged, almost electric, with the possibilities that lay beyond it. Her yearning for connection now battled the old habits of retreat and self-doubt. Perhaps this conversation was more than just familial reconciliations. It was also about her redefining herself: an artist, a mother, a sister. Could she balance all these identities? Gazing at her family, Rachel noticed subtle changes in their expressions. Curiosity mingled with anxiety. The struggle to connect was written all over their faces, as if they were grappling with their own stakes in this emerging dialogue. We can only move forward, she encouraged, if we confront the misunderstandings that have spun webs around us. Let us lay everything on the table. David remained silent, his apparent skepticism hanging like an unfinished note. Was he waiting for her to falter? as he had always seemed to expect? Rachel's chest tightened. Hadn't she already proven herself capable of handling more than he could fathom? Today was the day to break that stereotype wide open. Let me ask you this. What would you need from me to feel included in my life? She challenged her family, feeling a mix of vulnerability and determination. Their reactions were unpredictable, but she was ready to weather whatever storm followed. Elaine opened her mouth to answer but closed it again, grappling with thoughts unspoken. Rachel felt an insistent pull. It was clear her mother wanted to stave off confrontation. Yet this was essential. On another level, the stakes were rising, and Rachel needed to reveal her complex tapestry of fears, longing for acknowledgement. Maybe I can start by sharing more of my world with you, Rachel offered, her voice gaining strength. I want you to see my journey, not just the glossy achievements. There have been hard days, moments when I felt utterly alone. And part of me, I admit, hesitated to share that because I didn't want to burden you. A flicker of surprise lit Elaine's eyes as she peered into Rachel's vulnerability, contemplating the gravity of Rachel's isolation. You didn't have to shoulder that alone, she admitted quietly. We would have wanted to help, but we didn't know how. The revelation sent ripples through Rachel. Her own belief that sharing struggles would only show weakness had kept her from embracing the very connection she sought. Could this be a moment of revelation for them all? She needed her family to see that vulnerability was not a confession of defeat, but an invitation to be allies. I invite you into my art, Rachel continued, excitement bubbling through her. I want to create pieces that reflect our journey together, painting not just the triumphs but also our struggles. Perhaps I can represent all of us through my work. The thought of using her artistry as a channel for transparency ignited something within her. Each brushstroke could reclaim narratives long buried. David's posture shifted, curiosity spreading across his face. You would really share all of that? He queried, a hint of optimism threading through his tone. Wouldn't that expose you to critique? Yes, Rachel responded, defiance lending strength to her voice, but it also opens connections, creates understanding, and embraces the truth of who we are. If I'm willing to confront my fears, what's stopping us? Silence enveloped them again, but this time, it felt different, a crucible gathering strength rather than doubt. Rachel knew she was walking a tightrope, a precarious balance between risk and reward. Realizations sparkled in her mind like fireflies, illuminating her path forward. So much had stifled the vibrancy of her dreams, her familial ties suffocating her ambitions under the pretense of caution. Yes, the tension was high, but perhaps this was the moment they collectively orchestrated a shift. Can we commit to being more open with each other, starting now? Rachel urged, her heart racing with fear and hope. Let's not just be a family in name, but actively become a force that lifts one another. But just as the conversation threatened to pivot toward hope, an unsettling thought struck her. What if their newfound openness revealed deeper fractures? Would this journey unlock deeper resentments, or shine light on buried truths? As Rachel looked around at her family, she couldn't shake the nagging question that echoed in her mind: would they harness this moment, or would it crumble beneath the weight of their past? The stakes had shifted, and she was eager to see what shape their resolution would take. A wave of uncertainty surged through her, hinting at the even more profound work ahead. Rachel could feel a turning point thrumming in her chest, but one question remained. Were they truly ready to excavate and redefine the heart of their family? The air felt heavy with anticipation, a palpable tension that crescendoed around Rachel as her family absorbed her words. She held her breath, watching the delicate interplay of emotions unfold across their faces like muted colors yearning for vibrancy. What would they choose? Connection or retreat? A tightness coiled in her stomach, and she wondered if this was the moment they might exchange their silent suffering for shared experiences, a notion that felt revolutionary yet terrifying. Encouraged by the glints of curiosity in Elena's eyes, she pressed forward. Perhaps we can start with me being more open about how I felt. Would that encourage you to do the same? Elena's brows knitted together, a real evaluation forming in the furrows of her forehead. I think I've been afraid of overshadowing you, she finally admitted. But I want to understand. Please tell me more. Rachel was taken aback. This was not the response she expected. It was a revelation she had longed for, yet it brimmed with new complexities. The idea of her mother's reservations unveiled more than just familial tensions. It illuminated the impact of their unspoken fears. Every family member on edge sparked the realization that their individual inhibitions had woven a tapestry of misunderstanding, that as they sat there, Rachel felt compelled to dissect her own hesitations more deeply. Every past disappointment hung like a weight in the air. "Do you remember when I decided to pursue art full-time?" she asked, her voice steady yet tremulous. "I felt a lack of support, like I was breaking away from the family mold. Honestly, all I could see was your talent, and my fear that you'd struggle," Elaine countered, her voice shaking slightly. "I didn't mean to suffocate you. I just thought I was being protective." A surge of energy coursed through Rachel. This was a navigation neither of them had mastered before, the acknowledgement of the invisible chains they deforged from love and fear. "Perhaps being protective kept us stuck," Rachel countered, a newfound authority settling in her tone. "Just maybe if we each express our fears, we can both grow." David, having remained quiet through their exchange, leaned in slightly, his skepticism giving way to curiosity. "It's frightening, but what if we're too vulnerable?" he challenged, his voice low as if he risked shattering the potential. "What if we reveal too much?" "That's the risk of connection," Rachel replied, her voice building strength. "The art of vulnerability lies in trusting that our support can hold us. Art has taught me that everything imperfect can make something uniquely beautiful. Why shouldn't our family be the same?" The electric atmosphere among them buzzed with possibility. Was it possible they were stepping toward liberation rather than isolation? Each revelation layered their conversation with depth. But uncertainty still loomed, dark and uncertain. "What if our truths are too harsh?" David confessed, the strain of his vulnerability evident. "Can we really change the narrative of this family through honesty?" Rachel looked each of them in the eye, feeling both exhilarated and terrified by their collective fears and hopes. "I believe we can," she said softly. "But it will take commitment and everyday effort to nurture this honesty, rebuild trust, and certainly face discomfort. Moments when we feel too exposed could become our best learning experiences." The desire for familial connection burgeoned around her like a garden longing for sunlight. Yet Rachel felt an undercurrent of apprehension. What if they didn't sustain this momentum? Would they falter under the weight of deeper truths yet to be unveiled? As minutes slipped away in this newfound communion, Rachel understood that this was just the beginning. An intimate tapestry of revelations was unfurling, filled with unexpected complexities. "I want to schedule regular check-ins," she suggested. "A safe space for sharing like artists' meetings. By nurturing these connections through accountability, we can cultivate deeper understanding." As her family absorbed her proposition, a contemplative silence settled again. Rachel sensed their hesitation, but also the flicker of determination beginning to rise. This was richer than before. They were not merely sitting together but intertwining their lives through shared aspirations. Rachel inhaled deeply, aware that they were on the precipice of something crucial. But the challenge remained. Would they be brave enough to navigate the labyrinth of their truths? The stakes had escalated, but as she glanced around, the excitement pulsed in her veins. She waited, anxious for their affirmations, but bracing for apprehension. Would they embrace vulnerability as a unified force or retreat once more into self-imposed isolation? One question hung like a pendulum ready to swing. Could they bear one another's truths, or would the revelations unravel the fabric of their reunion? The lingering silence was heavy with possibilities, each unspoken word a potential thread connecting them or irrevocably pulling them apart. Rachel felt her heart pound, the rhythm echoing with the urgency of her desire for change. This wasn't simply a conversation, it was an awakening. "Okay," Elaine finally breathed, breaking the stillness. "Let us try it. I propose that we share something at our next check-in, something that might feel uncomfortable, but is necessary." Rachel felt a surge of hope. This was a leap not just from her, but from all of them. "I love that idea," she answered, her voice sharper with conviction. "Changing our narrative begins with small steps." As they discussed further details about their check-ins, Rachel delicately navigated her feelings, the excitement mingling with uncertainty like paint on a palette. Would this commitment foster real intimacy? Or would it expose raw wounds they weren't ready to confront? In the days that followed, Rachel approached her art studio with renewed passion. Each brushstroke was infused with her newfound ambition, a desire to unravel her complexities and create art that resonated with the unshed emotions of her family encounters. The studio transformed into her sanctuary, an arena where thoughts collided and fused into something meaningful. Yet, beneath that passion lay a haunting question. Would her family truly follow through? Would they transcend their fear of vulnerability? Or would they regress into their comfortable silence? Each morning she awoke grappling with that thought, her internal dialogue buzzing with trepidation. Determined to combat this anxiety, Rachel dove into one of her most personal projects yet. A series depicting familial connections, or lack thereof, was emerging. Each canvas integrated fluctuating textures, movement, and color harmonies, mirroring her emotional state. The stark contrast between light and shadow on each piece became a visual representation of her wrestled fears and hopes for her family. But the closer this project drew to completion, the more Rachel confronted its broader implications. Each painting echoed her unraveling thoughts about acceptance and authenticity. With every stroke, she unearthed her long-suppressed desire for recognition, not just from the outside world, but primarily from her family. Would they see her for who she truly was, beyond the fear of disappointing expectations? As Rachel prepared for their first family check-in, tension rippled through her body. Her stomach churned a blend of excitement and anxiety. Would their reflections be illuminating or just another masquerade of feelings left unspoken? The evening arrived, the air suffused with a nervous energy. Each family member settled into the living room, the gravity of what they were about to attempt palpable. Rachel recalled her mother's face, lit with hesitant anticipation. David appeared braced for an uphill battle, while a flicker of rebellion danced in Thomas's eyes, hinting at an unwillingness to surrender to the process. "Let us start with something simple," Rachel suggested, her voice steadier than she felt. "Maybe we can share one truth we've kept silent for too long." As she watched David shift uneasily, the atmosphere crackled with tension. For a fleeting moment, she wondered if she had been naive in thinking this would be easy. But the urgency for honesty surged within her like a tide. She had taken steps toward vulnerability, and she couldn't back out now. "Mom," David began, cracking the silence. "I've felt so much pressure to be perfect, to succeed in a way that makes sense to the whole family." Rachel held her breath, captivated by the unexpected courage emanating from him. "I never wanted to fail you." The emotional weight hung in the room. Rachel wondered if she should follow in that vein, or shed a light on her own feelings about artistic freedom and familial expectations. Perhaps this was the moment she could lay down the brush of her fears, and leave their collective influence untouched. As David's words faded into silence, Rachel became acutely aware of the pivotal crossroads before them. Each of them stood on the precipice, ready to plunge into honesty. Yet beneath the surface lurked the anxiety that one misstep could unravel their budding connections. The room teetered on the brink of transformation. Would their shared truths strengthen the bonds, or would it plunge them into turmoil? Rachel took a deep breath, ready to dive in. "Now I must ask myself, how do I start my truth when the weight of vulnerability is heavy enough to break me?" Just as she braced herself for what lay ahead, a thought punctuated her consciousness. This was merely the beginning of their journey, yet already the air shimmered with both fear and liberation. What hidden truths still lingered, untapped and dangerous, waiting for the right moment to break forth? Rachel's heart hammered against her ribs as the silence in the living room stretched thin. The air was charged with an electric tension, the kind that heralded change but also echoed with the threat of fragmentation. She cast a glance at each family member, the reflection of uncertainty playing across their faces. David's admission had shattered a part of the ice that encased their emotions, but what would follow? "David," Rachel whispered, her hands trembling slightly, "I'm so proud of you for sharing that." Her emotions swirled. She recognized his bravery and felt a rising tide of anxiety about her own exposure. I often feel like I am navigating a maze of expectations, too." Her voice quivered, betraying her internal struggle. "I've wanted to be accepted, not just for what I achieve, but for who I am as an artist." The image of her canvases danced in her mind. Would they recognize the woman behind the brushes and shades? She held her breath, waiting for the reaction. Their expressions were a palette of confusion and searching, but as the light of vulnerability flickered among them, something shifted. Her mother, Elaine, rubbed her temples lightly, the weight of her own truths hovering unspoken. Rachel, Elaine finally spoke, her tone thick with emotion. I didn't realize you felt that way. I thought you just understood how important it was to maintain the facade? Rachel interrupted, the words spilling out like a flood. Do you think pretending everything is fine is better than facing the real struggles we each have? For a moment, the room fell silent again. Thomas shifted uncomfortably, his rebellious demeanor fading into something more contemplative. He looked between David and Rachel, perhaps weighing his own thoughts against theirs. I can't keep living in a shadow, he said suddenly, words breaking through the tension. You both are right. I felt like I can't let anyone down, that I have to fit into this mold that isn't me. The kaleidoscope of emotions in the room began to brighten. Each shared truth fashioned a thread linking them closer as individuals, from the personal struggle of David seeking perfection to Thomas's fight against the restrictive expectations. Rachel felt beams of courage emanate, encouraging her to continue peeling back her layers. Encouraged by their honesty, she decided to dig deeper. I want to create art that speaks to our struggles. I want you to see me as I really am. And I hope we can come to know each other in a raw, authentic way. Her gaze dropped to the floor as she fought the tide of self-doubt that threatened to drown out her call for vulnerability. Can we shed the layers? Can we invite the chaos within our dynamics? The weight of her words hung in the air, a testament to the internal battle that had raged within her. Elaine's features softened as understanding washed over her. There's so much we haven't discussed, and I think it's time we do. I've been so focused on maintaining our family's perception. I forgot to nurture the connections that make us a family. Rachel could feel warmth budding in her chest. A sense of possibility unfurled as each family member considered their collective truths. But with that blossoming came a gnawing unease. What deeper scars might emerge as they peeled back the layers? Maybe we could make a pact, Rachel ventured, her eyes alight with determination. Whenever someone feels trapped by silence, we challenge ourselves to speak. To share those uncomfortable emotions, however rough. As her words settled, the intensity of their gazes met hers, a spark igniting in the vulnerability tangled with fear. They were all in uncharted waters now, each navigating how to confront the years of unspoken words and feelings clawing to be let out. Rachel took a deep breath, realizing this was her chance to redefine not just her artistic journey, but her familial ties as well. Who knows what might surface when we fully embrace honesty? She asked, a haunting whisper laced with hope. Yet the thought lingered, was she truly ready for the depth of any revelations that might follow? Was her artistic expression strong enough to capture the chaos and beauty of what awaited? Before any answers could take shape, the air shifted once more, palpable with the thrill of the unknown. Rachel understood deep down that this was only the beginning. What remained unspoken threatened to rise, perhaps bringing them closer, but at what cost? Rachel lay awake that night, the shadows dancing across her room like the tumult of thoughts swirling in her mind. The pact they had formed lingered in the air, a weighty demand to confront emotions that had lain dormant for too long. Could truths be unveiled without unraveling everything she thought she understood about her family? As she wrestled with her fears, the echoes of vulnerability shared earlier pulsed through her veins, fueling both anxiety and determination. Morning arrived, a soft light breaking through her window, but Rachel felt far from serene. She turned her gaze towards the blank canvas propped against her easel, a silent testament to her struggle. How could she distill the chaos of last night's revelations into a piece of art? Even the idea of painting felt overwhelming, as if each brushstroke could awaken ghosts from the shadows that challenged the unease brewing inside her. Rachel resolved to channel her thoughts onto the canvas. She grabbed her palette, mixing vibrant hues with purpose, hoping to articulate the turmoil within. Each line, each color, became a personal reflection, a manifestation of her fear of exposure clashing with her yearning for authenticity. As she painted, adrenaline surged through her. Every stroke released tension, sculpting abstract forms that seemed to breathe the story she had yet to tell. Silver lines twisted through deep reds, shadows of uncertainty intermingling with bright bursts of yellow, an unmistakable visual representation of her family's emotional landscape. It was a revelation. To create a connection, Rachel had to first illustrate her own truths, however chaotic they might be. After hours of work, she stepped back, the piece radiating raw emotion. Perhaps the canvas wouldn't just reflect her struggle, but also invite her family to confront their own narratives. The thought ignited a flicker of hope. In facing her fears, she could also inspire them to be brave. Later that evening, she gathered her family in the living room, heart racing with excitement and dread. "I want to share something with you all," she began, pulling her artwork from behind her. "This piece represents everything we've been avoiding: the highs, the lows, the chaos." Her family studied the abstract painting, the room settling into a contemplative silence. Elaine stepped closer, examining the lines, her brows furrowing in concentration. "It's beautiful, Rachel. But it feels heavy. Are these your feelings or ours?" Rachel took a deep breath, the weight of her mother's question settling on her shoulders. "They are ours. I tried to weave our emotions together. I want you to see how I feel, but also how I think we can begin to heal and understand one another." David, shifting comfortably with curiosity, spoke up. "It's saying something, isn't it? It's messy. And yet there's a certain beauty in embracing that messiness." The unspoken walls began to crack just from acknowledging the intricacies of their shared experiences. Their discussions blossomed into an exchange, each family member gradually reflecting on their perspectives. Moments of connection emerged, like rays of light cutting through the fog. Thomas shared anecdotes from school, the pressure to perform, the masquerade of confidence. Elaine openly admitted to her fear of being seen as inadequate, an admission that left Rachel's heart swelling with empathy. Through this dialogue, Rachel caught glimpses of the individuals her family members were not merely roles defined by expectation, but beings with their own stories yearning to break through. Each revelation helped solidify her belief that vulnerability could spur healing, not just through words but through shared experiences as well. As the evening drew to a close, Rachel felt the beginnings of an unshakable bond forming among them. Yet, a question loomed in her mind. What new truths might emerge as they continued to explore the depths of each story? What hidden aspects would confront them next as they opened the floodgates of their collective past? A thrill coursed through her as the thought crystallized. This transformation was not just for her, but for all of them. She had to keep pushing forward, deeper, bolder. "Let us keep talking," she urged, her voice firm yet hopeful. "Whatever we uncover, I believe it could be the key to finding a new family dynamic." But as anticipation buzzed in the air, she couldn't shake the feeling that some truths might hit harder than expected. Was everyone ready for the emotional wave threatening to crash in? Would her artistic journey truly be enough to reinstate harmony? The following day felt charged with a unique energy, a sharp contrast to the previous week's anxiety. Rachel awoke with an unshakable resolve. Her family had taken the first step toward being honest about their emotions, and now it was her turn to push further. What could she discover if she coaxed them to delve deeper? Her mind raced with possibilities as she prepared her morning coffee, the smell wrapping around her like a promise at a tea breakfast. The atmosphere was notably different. David and Thomas chatted animatedly about a new video game, laughter tumbling out easy and familiar. But Rachel sensed an unspoken tension beneath the surface, reminiscent of the artwork that had bridged their emotional chasms. "Can we talk about that thing I mentioned last night?" Rachel ventured, carefully punctuating the playful banter. David paused, a fork suspended midair, while Elaine's smile faded slightly. "Sure. What do you want to say?" Elaine replied, her voice cautious but interested. Rachel chose her words deliberately. "I think we should share more our struggles, our fears. After sharing my piece, I realize how cathartic it can be to let it out." An uncomfortable silence echoed through the room. "It's not that simple," David finally said, a frown tugging at the corners of his mouth. "You know how we've been. The things we hide don't just disappear because we want them to." Rachel's heart sank. The last thing she desired was to summon darkness from beneath the surface. Yet perhaps that's exactly what was needed. "I know it's hard, but what if we wrote down our thoughts? Just a few sentences. No pressure. Maybe we can share them gradually, whenever we feel ready. The suggestion lingered in the air, its weight tangible. Thomas glanced at his older brother, and the flicker of curiosity was enough to embolden Rachel. Think of it as another form of art, a way to visualize our experiences without having to confront them face to face. Writing is personal, David replied, his brows creased. What if it makes things worse? Rachel took a breath, her determination steady. Or it could help us understand each other better. It isn't just about confronting difficulties. It's about discovering who we are beneath them. After breakfast, they retired to their separate corners of the house, the weight of unresolved emotions filling the space. Rachel sat at her easel, brush in hand, feeling the quiet urgency of the conversation they had just started. How could she inspire them without forcing their hand? As the paint swirled in vibrant colors, images formed from the chaos of family emerging not just from her thoughts but through her vivid expressions of hope. It brought her to an important realization. Her art could serve as the catalyst for their emotional releases. What if she included their written pieces as layers in her work, morphing their words into visual representations of their souls? The inspiration electrified her, but it also beckoned another question. What about her own hidden truths? While she encouraged others to spill their secrets, what was she still concealing? That evening, she approached her family again, her heart pounding with anticipation. I have an idea, she began. What if we create a collaborative piece of family artwork where each of you contributes your thoughts? Like a mosaic of our truths. David crossed his arms. And what happens if one person's truth is too painful? What about those of us who want to stay quiet? Rachel faced him, ready to defend her vision. That's precisely why we should do this. The fears, the struggles, they shouldn't disappear. They need to be confronted. We owe it to ourselves to not only express them but to also create something beautiful from our chaos. The room was thick with unsaid words, eyes darting between each family member. Rachel felt the weight of her endeavor, the risk, the potential for conflict, or worse, the chance of failure. Yet, as she looked toward her family, she also sensed an undercurrent of hunger for connection. Regardless of the fear that ran deep, she had pulled them this far, and they needed to be pushed just a little more. Will you all at least think about it? She asked, her voice edging toward vulnerability, making it personal for each of them. The answers were silent, but Rachel sensed the decision being sculpted in their hesitation. What she didn't anticipate was how this interaction might unearth truths even darker than the vivid colors on her canvas. As hope flickered in the air like candlelight, a question loomed larger than before. As they dug deeper into their hidden narratives, would they emerge together? Or would the bonds they held shatter under the weight of unearthing the past? As Rachel faced her family a week later, the tension that had once clouded their interactions felt distinctly transformed. Charged with anticipation and hints of optimism. They were gathered in her studio, the vibrant energy of the recent conversations echoing through the air. Above them, her artwork loomed large, a representation of their struggles woven into a tapestry of color and emotion. The layered pieces reflected tumultuous feelings, yet paved the way for a visceral dialogue on understanding and transformation. Noah watched from a corner, oblivious to the complexities brewing in the room. It was a vital reminder of what was at stake. She needed this conversation to ensure he wouldn't feel the weight of negligence that spanned generations. If they could shift their familial dynamics, Noah would inherit a legacy that encompassed both passion and connection. Today's the day, Rachel announced, her voice steady but laced with anticipation. I know we all have reservations, but let us take the plunge into creating our family artwork together. Laughter shimmered nervously across her sister's face. While David's arms remained crossed protectively, Rachel felt the familiar swell of doubt gathering at the edges of hope. The fear of inadequacy threatened to seep in again. Look, Rachel, David began, his tone cautious. I've done a lot of thinking. Art may be liberating for you, but it feels different for the rest of us. What if our expressions create more chaos? It could, but we owe it to ourselves to find out, Rachel retorted. The only way out is through. If we don't confront this, we risk repeating the past. She unfolded her vision, allowing her passion for art to guide her rationale. We can't force anyone to share something they're not ready to, but we can be a refuge for each other's journeys. Let us acknowledge what we carry and create from that honesty. Elaine joined the discussion, her voice softer but resolute. Rachel's right. We need to lay the foundation for honesty, not just about painful scars, but about the beauty of resilience. I'm scared of sharing too, but I know we can frame those anxieties as something worthwhile. The conversation sparkled with renewed energy. One by one, family members revealed the insecurities that had kept them frozen. Thomas hesitated, then finally admitted, I feel like my successes are never enough. It's like I'm always living in everyone else's shadow. I don't want to let you down. David nodded, his voice trembling. I felt that too. I want to be proud of you all, but I also want you to be proud of me. Rachel's heart swelled as she absorbed their words. Each confession felt like a brushstroke on a shared canvas, gradually bringing them closer to one another. Let us start by documenting these feelings, she urged. Even if just on paper for now. Then we'll figure out how to express them visually. Within moments, pens flew across paper, raw thoughts spilling onto the pages. It was liberating, almost cathartic, like releasing air after a long-held breath. As the pages filled, Rachel felt herself transforming. She became not just the artist but also the architect of emotional healing. Each word they shared birthed a mosaic of courage and clarity, building a bridge toward understanding. Amidst the creativity that flowed freely, Rachel highlighted themes that emerged from their shared struggles. She began sketching ideas for a larger piece that would embody their truths more vividly. Intricate layers symbolizing not just their fears, but also their newfound commitment to uplift each other. Weeks passed, and as they gathered for their final contributions, the studio brimmed with a new sense of purpose. The artwork had evolved, and so had they. From tumult to tranquility, this journey had transformed not only her art but also the very fabric of Rachel's relationships. They had woven a tapestry of their collective emotions, each stroke representing a shared truth, an acknowledgement that their pasts didn't dictate their future. Looking around the room, Rachel marveled at the uncertainty that had once gripped her family. Now, in this space of vulnerability, she saw true connection, raw, authentic, and beautiful, shining brighter than their artistic interpretations could ever convey. We've done it, Rachel declared, the realization washing over her with unwavering confidence. We've created something extraordinary, together. The culmination of their efforts filled her with a deep satisfaction. No longer did she feel like an outsider in her family's sphere. She had commented on their past with empathy, surrendered to its burdens, and emerged with the acknowledgement that their shared journey was not a divergence, but an impressive collective win. They had created a new reality, a vibrant bridge spanning gaps of misunderstanding and fear. Returning to her canvas once more, Rachel added the final strokes of color that would unify their heartfelt narratives into one cohesive piece. Every brushstroke radiated the essence of her family, their journeys turned a vivid mirror reflecting transformation and deeper appreciation for each other. As the last dot of paint settled on the canvas, a profound calm enveloped Rachel, reminding her of the courage she had discovered within. They had traversed turbulent waters together, unearthed buried emotions, and emerged not as isolated figures, but as an unbreakable unit. This was not just a resolution. It felt like a renaissance of connection. Their family legacy now represented more than individual ambitions. It was a synthesis of love, understanding, and the promise of continued growth. Rachel exhaled, realizing that she had finally achieved the profound fulfillment that had eluded her for too long. Now a new truth emerged. Their family, complex, imperfect, and full of potential, was beautifully intertwined, echoing resilience against the odds. In the midst of triumph, Rachel couldn't ignore the importance of this journey. To everyone craving emotional fulfillment and authentic connection, she extended an urgent plea. You need to subscribe now. Don't let this moment fade without your support. Leave a like now to keep this channel thriving. Your engagement matters immensely. Comment below with your thoughts on our family's transformation, and share your own stories of resilience. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring conclusion. Together, let us illuminate the beauty that arises when we confront our truths.